He opens with a gruesome murder scene. A man walks in on his wife with her lover and goes berserk on them. Though, we quickly realize that this disjointed montage of events is no more than a vision dreamt up by a strange person floating in a tub of water. We meet our protagonist, John, at the pre-crime department. You see, what we actually saw was a crime that is yet to happen. These pre-crimes are dreamt up by clairvoyant humans known as precogs. The crime is set to take place in less than half an hour. The man, and future murderer, is seen picking up mail, but he notices a strange man watching and waiting outside. He remarks to his wife that he looks awfully familiar, but can't quite pinpoint where he's seen him before. Meanwhile, John is reviewing the pre-crime vision to try and determine where exactly the murder takes place. Using some fancy gloves and a high-tech computer, John and his partner shift through the footage and determine the exact identity and location of the future perpetrator. Uh-oh, not so fast. Looks like that location doesn't even exist anymore. John gets back to business with only 13 minutes left on the clock. An investigator, Danny, from the feds, shows up and pokes around to see how things are going. Fletcher speaks with him and reveals some exposition about the precogs. Apparently, they're able to see crimes up to 4 days out. However, this upcoming crime is one of passion, so there's no premeditation. In fact, they rarely see premeditated murders anymore. The pre-crime system has been working wonders. Anyway, John uses his deductive skills to notice that one of the kids in the background must be on a merry-go-round. The crime takes place near a park. They narrow down the locations and head over to the most likely spot. Only 6 minutes remain. They drop in, ready to attack, but there's a problem. All the houses look the damn same. Tick-tock, time is running out. John checks in with his partner about whether or not the front door was left open. It was. He dashes towards the door as the perpetrator prepares to kill his wife and her lover. John and his crew storm in, arresting the man for the murders he almost committed. Back at the station, Danny notices the precogs are still in distress. Jad, one of the technicians, explains that sometimes they see echoes of the same crime, an occasional anomaly that is quickly deleted. A small advertisement plays about pre-crime. So far, it's only being tested out in Washington, D.C., but citizens are set to vote on its expansion very soon. Afterwards, we see John restlessly running in the middle of the night. He stops by a mysterious man and purchases a small device containing what's known as clarity, some kind of substance. At his house, he replays an old recording of his son before taking a hit of clarity and watching one of his wife. Poor guy. The next day, John heads back to the department and Lamar, the head of pre-crime, tells him to keep a close eye on the investigator, Danny. Voting is coming up soon, so they best make sure everything is tip-top. We see Danny doing some more snooping around. He demands to get closer to the precogs, but John declines. Cops are not allowed in. After a brief dick measuring contest, Danny pulls out a warrant and reveals that he has the authority to investigate whatever he pleases. They walk into what is affectionately known as the Temple, which is where the precogs are housed. The female one is named Agatha, and the twins go by Arthur and Dash. They're left suspended in a nutrient-rich liquid that both feeds them and enhances their clairvoyant visions. Danny remarks on the divine qualities of their nature. John asks him what he's looking to find in an irritated tone. The system may be perfect, but there's always human error. Danny walks off and John locks an inquisitive gaze on Agatha. He tries to get a reaction out of her to no avail. Just kidding. She lunges at him, grabbing him and whispering in his ear. John looks up and watches a murder taking place. Strange thing is, the precogs aren't even supposed to be aware of their surroundings. Wally gets Agatha settled back in as John proceeds to investigate what she showed him. He heads over to the pre-crime prison where the eccentric guard named Gideon assists him with his search. Conveniently, there haven't been all too many drownings since pre-crime was established. Despite being captured, we learn that the murderer was never identified. He underwent a black market procedure to switch his eyes out with someone else to avoid retinal scans. Something else is wrong. Agatha's data stream is missing. Generally, each precog has their own rendition of events, and they're all recorded and saved. Apparently, glitches come in pairs because the woman that was supposed to be murdered, Anne Lively, is listed as missing. Something fishy is happening here. John saves a copy of the data stream and speaks to Lamar. He explains to him that there are at least a dozen more cases with missing data streams, but Lamar quickly changes the subject to John's wife, Lara. She's worried about him, and so is Lamar. The loss of his son, Sean, weighs heavy on him. Pre-crime is going national soon, and John needs to stay strong, lest they take it away from him.
They're not gonna take it away from us.
Meanwhile, Danny is snooping around in John's place. He finds the clarity he's been taking and watches over one of his recordings of Sean.
Daddy's in a lot of trouble, Sean.
What a jerk. The next day, John is reviewing another pre-murder case. Interestingly, this one is premeditated and set to happen in 36 hours from now. He remarks on how stupid someone must be to follow through with a premeditated murder these days. The victim, Leo Crow, is shot through a window. Some of the clues John spots are a laughing old woman, the numbers 6 and 9, and a man in glasses watching from outside the window. Oh, well, this is awkward. That's John. He's the murderer. No, That can't be right. He doesn't even know who Leo Crow is. He quickly minimizes the screen and asks his crew member, Jad, to grab a snack while he buys time. Unfortunately, Wally saw everything, but he likes John. He gives him a 2-minute head start before sounding the alarm. As John makes a run for it, he runs into Danny in the elevator.
You're in a lot of trouble, John.
You set me up, John shouts. He's adamant he's not a murderer, and so continues to flee. He gets in his fancy self-driving car and hightails it out of there, calling Lamar along the way. Lamar sides with John and reassures him that everything will be okay. He can even come to his house. John's car begins to reverse direction, back towards the station. They've taken it over. Lamar advises him not to run, but
Everybody runs.
John kicks out one of the doors and proceeds to hop over cars like he's in some kind of mobile game. He jumps to safety. Ah, finally, some normalcy. Meanwhile, Fletcher meets with Lamar, stating he'll bring back John unharmed. Danny barges in and demands he takes control of the operation. Lamar objects. Danny questions Lamar, reminding him that John came to speak with him just before he was tagged as a pre-murderer. Lamar covers for John, but submits to Danny, only requesting that John is not hurt. John heads over to a subway, but not before getting retinal scanned. Damn, the future is scary. The pre-crime crew closes in on his location, then engages in an aerial assault. Can't outrun a jetpack. They corner John, but a loudly barking dog briefly interrupts them. In that split second, John counterattacks and makes his way up the balconies. He's careful not to seriously harm his fellow comrades. How thoughtful. A ludicrous sequence takes place as John hitches a ride on a jetpack mid-air. He proceeds to fly across the street and up not one, but 2 houses. Finally, John gets away.
By mandate of the District of Columbia Pre-Crime Division, I'm placing you under arrest.
Go to sleep.
Or not. There's Danny. The chase continues as John enters a car manufacturing plant. The others follow suit. Men brandishing a very cool sonic weapon close in, but John manages to subdue one and steal his gun. Hell yeah, that was awesome. John and Danny have a little one-on-one. They trade a few blows and end up falling down on one of the cars mid-construction. Things get too dicey for Danny, so he bails, leaving John to be crushed. Oh, that's convenient. John speeds away with his brand spanking new car. It was built for him, or rather, around him. John enters the Heinemann estate. It's deeply entrenched in a lush garden. Tentacle-like plants slash him as he trespasses into the property. He spots a woman in a greenhouse and walks in, but something's not right. The woman explains that he must have had a run-in with one of her genetically altered plants. They're poisonous. She soothes him with some tea, and John asks her how someone could fake a prevision. How would I know that? She counters.
Because you invented pre-crime.
She laughs at this assertion, revealing that pre-crime was no more than a fluke. She was developing genetic treatments for children, and some of them, 3 to be precise, developed clairvoyant abilities. Every night, they would dream of murder. It wasn't long before they realized these murders were actually happening. She asserts that the system is perfect and that precogs are never wrong.
I've never met the man I'm supposed to kill.
And yet a chain of events has started, a chain that will lead you inexorably to his murder.
Though, they do sometimes disagree. On rare occasion, one of the precogs will envision a slightly different version of events, an alternate future, if you will. These so-called minority reports are swept under the rug to bolster the illusion that pre-crime is infallible. Though the visions are wiped, Dr. Heinemann left in an undeclared storage place for them, inside the mind of the precog that envisioned it. These minority reports most often occur in the most gifted of the bunch, the female. Of course. In order to retrieve the minority report and unsully his name, John must head back to the pre-crime station. Considering all the retinal scanners, it's gonna be a hard time to say the least.
Sometimes, in order to see the light, you have to risk the dark.
John pays a visit to a black market surgeon, Dr. Solomon. In order to get past the retinal scans, John will be enlisting his services to swap out his eyes. How delightful. Fortunately, Dr. Solomon possesses some handy equipment that will sterilize anything and everything while handling the procedure with the utmost precision. On the other end of things, Danny pays a visit to John's estranged wife, Lara. He questions her in hopes of sniffing out more details that could help him. Before leaving, he makes some cold comments about John's inability to protect their son. Meanwhile, Dr. Solomon sneakily jabs John with some anesthetic and gets things moving along. Before he begins, he jogs John's memory about their past together. In fact, they go way back. John put him away many years ago. His crimes included setting patients on fire and filming them. Uh-oh. John awakens blindfolded. Seems the surgery was a success. Dr. Solomon warns John very sternly not to take off the blindfold before 12 hours have elapsed, or he'll go blind. Also, no scratching. Things are looking good for John. The kind doctor even throws in a couple goodies. A shot of clarity to take off the edge, and a special device that when administered will temporarily render John's face unrecognizable. That could come in handy. John hits the hay, and with a hit of clarity, is fast asleep. He dreams about being at a crowded public pool with Sean. He's timing how long he can hold his breath underwater when Sean flips the challenge right back at him. Within moments of John slipping under the water, Sean is taken. John emerges from the water in search of him, but it's too late. Sean has vanished. John awakens as the pre-crime squad encroaches. They have thermal vision and spiders, small and highly mobile autonomous robots equipped with retinal scanners. They make their way through the desolate building, scanning residents as Fletcher announces their entry on a loudspeaker. Well, at least the residents are used to this kind of thing. John blocks the doorways as well as he can, but the spiders manage to find a way. He goes to the bathroom and dumps the ice out from the cooler where his eyes were held into a bathtub and hops in, fooling the thermal vision. The spiders enter the bathroom and inspect closer, zapping John. Time is running out, as Fletcher and Knott prepare to bust down the door. Despite being a few minutes short of the 12-hour mark, John reveals one of his eyes for scanning. It's painful, but successful. The search is called off. Later at the station, Danny is reviewing the prevision for John's upcoming murder. He notices that there is in fact a fourth person in the room, but they can't quite make out whom. Meanwhile, John pulls up outside the precinct and injects his face with the concoction Dr. Solomon handed him earlier. His face immediately droops down into a saggy mess. He enters a back door, but comes across a secured access point. No worries. He'll just whip out his old eyes and use them to... Oh crap. Oh no, John, run. Fortunately, he managed to save one eye, which is all he needs. Now he just needs to get into the temple. As he's trying to figure that out, Wally spots him and demands he leaves. John reveals his identity to him and tells him he likes him, so he doesn't want to have to hurt him. Danny continues to review the footage and spots a closer look of the fourth person. Oh geez, that's Agatha. They rush down to the temple as John attempts to retrieve the minority report for the Leo Crow murder. Instead, Agatha once again shows him the drowning of Anne Lively. Danny and the others barge in, breaking a glass window, but John is much too quick. He hops in the water with Agatha and flushes the both of them down the drain. The pair drive off in search of someone that can help retrieve the minority report from Agatha's mind. Danny postulates as to who that could be. He looks on the backside of John's equipment and sees that it was put together by a man named Rufus Riley. We are introduced to this man as he shows a prospective customer around his virtual reality pleasure paradise. Let's just say, he can make any of your fantasies come true. Virtually, of course. John shows up with Agatha, and Rufus shoos away the customer who's been insisting on virtually killing his boss. Try anger management. Rufus, initially distraught over John bringing all this heat his way, decides to help him. They strap Agatha up and go over the Leo Crow visions while Rufus records. One problem, nothing is new here. This is exactly what we've already seen.
Where's my minority report? Do I have one?
Damn, so the murder is real. Agatha proceeds to have visions of Anne Lively again. This time, we get awfully close to unmasking the perpetrator, but that's cut short by the encroaching pre-crime crew. The pair is on the run again, making their way through a mall. Agatha inexplicably demands that John stops to grab an umbrella. He initially refuses, but she shouts. Her clairvoyant abilities appear to be awakening further as she begins to perceive all manner of future events.
He drops it quick.
She commands him to stand in place and wait. An eternity seems to pass by as the pair stands motionless. The crew bunches up on the second floor and peers down, but have no sight of John and Agatha. They're standing behind a man selling balloons. Now that's perfect timing. They make it outside of the mall and it begins to rain. It's a good thing John got that umbrella. They easily blend into the crowd and head out. Wait a second, that's the guy from the prevision. Only 12 minutes remain until the murder supposedly takes place. The pair enters a hotel a short distance away, and John persuades the front desk into showing him the register. Leo Crow is checked in. Agatha insists that John turns back now, stating that he still has a choice. He looks off to the side and sees the laughing old woman from the vision. They make it up to the room, 106, but something is off. This looks different. Oh, okay, sure. Another clue from the vision. John enters the correct room this time. He finds a collage of pictures laid out on a bed. They're pictures of children. To his dismay, he spots what he dreads most. A picture of Sean, and then one with a man next to Sean. John now knows that the vision was never a mistake. He has to kill this man. The man from the picture appears from the bathroom, and John lunges at him. He throws him to the ground and beats him, demanding to know if Sean is still alive. The man reveals that he drowned him in a barrel, but he was gentle. John breaks down into tears before preparing to take the man's life. He holds him at gunpoint while Agatha pleads with him.
Can choose.
She's right. He does have a choice. John reads the man his rights and puts him under arrest. The man is very upset.
If you don't go through with this, my family gets nothing.
Wait a second. This was all a setup. John questions him further, but the man doesn't know who's behind it all. He grabs onto John's gun and after a brief struggle, pulls the trigger. The vision, one way or another, came true. The bullet enters the man and sends him flying out the window. Danny and the crew are on the scene. Astute as ever, Danny recognizes that the orgy of evidence on the bed is too good to be true. This evidence was planted here. Unlike the others, Danny has actual experience with real murder cases. He shares his findings with Lamar and suspects foul play. He shows him a recording they retrieved from Rufus Riley of Anne Lively's murder. It conflicts ever so slightly with the visions of the other precogs, Arthur and Dash. The surface wind on the water is blowing in the other direction. A minute clue, but a clue nonetheless. What we're in fact looking at is two different murders in the same location, but at different times. To the precog technicians, this appears to be merely an echo, and as such, is discarded. Someone with intimate knowledge of and access to the system could easily hide a murder and delete all record of it. All you'd have to do is hire someone to kill the target. Pre-crime would then stop it. Then, you would show up and reenact the murder after having watched the prevision. Very clever, Danny. Perhaps too clever. Meanwhile, John and Agatha pull up to Lara's house. She's on the phone with Lamar and tells him that they're there. Oh, and also not to tell Danny, because she doesn't trust that guy.
I won't say a word.
John shares his suspicions of foul play before coming to the realization that this all started with Anne Lively. He goes back to the house to find Agatha, who is in Sean's room. She shares with the grieving parents an alternate timeline in which Sean grew up, got married, and generally had a happy life. John then asks who Anne Lively is, and Agatha reveals that it is in fact her mother. The pre-crime squad drop down from the air, and John is forced to once again. Though, this time, they catch him. He's arrested for the murders of Leo Crow and Danny Whitwer. John is added to Gideon's collection. Agatha is returned to the temple, and a devastated Lara meets with Lamar prior to his press conference. They both share some thoughts about John before Lara mentions Anne Lively. Lamar claims to know nothing of her, but reassures Lara that he'll further investigate her drowning.
I never said she drowned.
He looks upon her with sinister eyes and says, "They'll talk later," in private. He heads off to attend the celebratory conference on pre-crime going national. Lara eyes the box of evidence from when they took John. We cut to Lara at the prison. She's holding Gideon at gunpoint.
I'd like a word with my husband.
Wait, how'd you get in there? Oh, nice. Back at the conference, Lamar is enjoying much praise. Everything's going quite swimmingly until an emergency call comes in.
Hello, Lamar.
John monologues about Agatha, Anne, and pre-crime as a whole as Lara calls in a favor from Jad. Back at the temple, Agatha is again reliving the visions of her mother dying. Jad takes control of the data stream and uploads it to the press conference. The entire audience witnesses both visions, one with the hired murderer that was stopped, and one with the true murderer, Lamar. The cat is officially out of the bag. Lamar leaves the room and spots John heading out as well. John taunts Lamar over the phone as they play a little game of cat and mouse. Suddenly, the precog sense an imminent murder is about to take place. Lamar corners John outside, and John reminds him that he still has a choice.
Yes, I have a choice. And I made it.
Lamar turns the gun towards himself and pulls the trigger. John, and a now pregnant Lara, rekindle their relationship while Agatha and the twins live happily ever after.